Hi there, I'm Michelle.
I'm Jim, and we are
A Teague of Your Own. Welcome to another Motivational Monday.
Let's get motivated.
Woo! Hooray! It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Yes, the sun is out. The snow is melting. Hopefully, that's the last of winter. Even though it hasn't really been a long winter or a harsh winter, I'm still ready for it to go away. So I'm just ready for winter to be done in my life in general. So, yeah.
Winter's fun.
No, it's not.
We did get some snow this weekend.
We got some snow.
And
ended up being a big nuisance snow, basically.
It was.
Yeah, so
it
wasn't bad.
Showed up Friday night, and by Saturday morning, the roads were clear.
The road and the driveway were already cleared.
Yeah,
it's like, okay.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's President's Day.
Yes, it is.
And I thought, presidents are leaders.
They're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when it comes to, being here in the United States, when it comes to the president of the United States, they are basically the leader of our country. They're the leader of the federal government. There are some people who would say that they're the leader of the free world.
Hear that often.
Yeah. So I thought, what better day to talk about leadership than today?
Makes sense.
And tomorrow is National Leadership Day.
Oh, how about that?
Because tomorrow is John Maxwell's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, John.
Yeah. So today is a very good day to talk a little bit about what it means to be a good leader. Because like I said, if you're president, you need to be a good leader. I can think of several good presidents. I know you can too. And the cool thing about them is they probably have a lot of similar qualities. When I think about a good president, when I think about a good leader, I'm thinking about somebody who's going to be an excellent communicator.
Mm-hmm.
Because to have communication skills, that's going to be vital when you are either president or a leader of any organization. You need to be able to communicate. You need to communicate your vision.
Mm-hmm.
You need to communicate any changes that are happening. You need to communicate what's going on within your organization. You need to communicate with people outside of your organization. You have to have good communication skills. You have to be clear. You have to be concise. You need to communicate well with people. What else do you think when it comes to being a good leader? The qualities that come in handy for them.
The ability to make sound decisions.
Ooh, decision making.
To take the information that you have and just to make a decision, because you've got to decide something in a lot of cases. But it's that ability to, take all that information, boil it down, and then, come up with not necessarily the best option, because, it's like when we talk about doing business, Chris Robinson says, this is a way, not the way.
Yeah.
Same thing. Presidents have been faced with lots of decisions where they have multiple options.
Yes.
And they may have multiple options that actually are good. And so it's a matter of picking one and going with it.
Yeah.
And then standing by the results. That's one of the things that we see happening is you'll have somebody in an authority position make a decision, and it turns out that it wasn't a very good decision. Yeah. And then they blame anybody and everybody, except, of course, for themselves. Yeah. And good leaders, they take responsibility for their decisions. Mm-hmm. And so that's another big part of it. It's not just making the decision, but then standing by the decision. And, especially if you've made the statement at some point that, it stops with me, but then, something goes wrong and it's everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
So that's a mark of a poor leader when they blame others for the decision that they made.
Yeah. And there are some presidents who have done that.
Right. And part of that is, if you don't surround yourself with the right people, because that's the other thing, is a good president has to build a good team. They're generally only going to be as good as the team they have around them. And so that means you need to pick the people who are going to be the best ones for the job,
Mhm.
not because they check off other kinds of boxes, which we see that more and more and more.
Yeah.
It's to me, it's crazy. You want the best person in the position. It shouldn't matter about any other characteristics about them. They're the best. That's the one that you want to have there. And you know, so that's something. And I think, you know, a lot of presidents in the past have done that. You know, they've tried to pick the right person, put the right people in place so that they can get the best advice and the best guidance.
Yeah,
And so it's building a team, building a proper team.
And I know out in industry, Lee Iacocca, that was one of the things that he did when he took over Chrysler, was he made sure that he had the right team
Mhm.
around him so that
Yep.
he could be successful. I know Henry Ford did that.
Yep.
Henry Ford was not the most brilliant man in the world.
No,
I don't think he even graduated from high school, if I
no,
remember right. However, he had a good idea,
right,
and he knew he needed help to execute it. So he made sure he surrounded himself with the right people to execute those ideas.
right. The same thing like with Carnegie. We're going through
Think and
another
Grow
Think and Grow
Rich.
Rich study.
Yeah.
We may do one ourselves at some point. And you know, he talks about he didn't need to know everything.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if you have to know everything as a leader before you start, you're never going to start because it's almost impossible to know everything. But you can find the right people who have the knowledge. Like he said, knowledge is cheap, and he's right. You can go to any college campus. You can see faculty, particularly, you know, adjunct faculty. How cheap are they? They're very cheap. Knowledge is cheap, and so it's easy to find. And the reason for that is because knowledge for the sake of knowledge just doesn't do you much good. You know, you hear people say knowledge is power. They are wrong. Anybody who tells you that does not know what they're talking about. I can tell you that, right? Just being point blank. Anybody says knowledge is power, wrong. Knowledge that is acted upon is power.
Yeah.
Knowledge itself is potential power, meaning that it's not that it doesn't have a value, but it truly doesn't become valuable until you do something with it.
Yep.
And so that's one of the things that, you know, Carnegie said, you know, because I guess it was one of the questions that Napoleon Hill asked him about, you know, all these men that he had made millionaires. And it's because they had knowledge that he didn't possess, that he was able to use to grow his, call it an empire if you'd like. And of course, he rewarded these people handsomely for bringing that knowledge and helping him put it into action. Presidents do that. Good presidents do that. You know, good presidents are also humble. That's something that we miss a lot when it comes to some of the people who are our so-called leaders. Washington, I think, was about as humble as you could get.
Yes.
You know, when they were trying to decide what the structure of government in this country was going to look like, initially there were some folks that wanted to make him king. And he decided that the whole monarchy thing, we were done with that. That was enough of that. We just fought a war to get away from that. And so he declined, and they decided that the title would be president, and that the president would be selected through an election. Now, the election process back then was very different than it is today. I'm not sure what our top politicians would look like under that system. I think we'd have very, very different outcomes.
Yes, you are.
It's kind of like, you know, with the Senate, a lot of people don't realize that originally, the Senate positions were not a popular vote.
No.
They were selected by the individual state legislatures. The beauty of that setup was that any time that those senators were not doing what the state legislatures wanted them to do, they could be recalled. And so the senators had to make decisions that were more in line with the desires of the residents of their states, because that's who they're actually supposed to be representing. People forget that. But now, with it being a popular vote and not having that ability to recall them, well, we have what we have.
Once they get in there, they're in for 6 years.
When they're in for 6 years, and for a lot of them, they're in there for a lot longer than that. And some of them should have gone a long time ago.
Yes, but you could say that about just about every politician. So yeah.
What's the old joke? What do politicians and diapers have in common? Said they should both be changed periodically and for the same exact reason.
Yeah. All right. So when it comes to leaders, one of the other qualities of a good leader is influence.
Yes.
And what does John Maxwell say about influence?
Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less.
Yes.
And Robert Cialdini tells us that influence is persuasion.
Yes, it is.
So that basically tells you that leadership is persuasion.
And unless you are good at influencing people, you're not going to be able to get them to go along with the plans that you have.
Right.
So you have to be good at influence to be a good president, to be a good leader. I can think of some presidents who were not very good at influence.
No.
And the influence that they did have waned quickly once they got into office.
Right.
It's interesting when you look back at history at some of the presidents, and some of them you don't even remember.
Right.
And that's because
they had virtually no influence.
Yeah. So when you look at the ones that had a whole lot of influence, they're the ones that really created a name for themselves.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like you look at someone like Ronald Reagan. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's face it. He changed the entire course of history. Yeah. Basically won the Cold War without ever firing a shot that anybody's aware of. Yeah. That's an amazing thing.
Well, and out of all the qualities that we've been talking about, he had the communication.
Oh, yeah. Well, they called him the great communicator. So, stands to reason.
He had a ton of influance when it came to that. He built up a good team around him. What were some of the other things that we said? And he's good at making decisions.
Right.
He's very good at making decisions. When it comes to making decisions, by the way, there are lots of studies that are out there that will tell you the faster you make a decision, the more successful you are going to be. That people who quickly make decisions and start moving in that direction are a lot more successful, not only as leaders, but in life in general.
Right.
And so if you are somebody who has a difficult time making decisions, you need to figure out how to make those decisions.
Right. And he made a decision that the Soviet Union needed to be brought down.
Yep. Tear down this wall.
Tear down this wall. And he did it by essentially starting an arms race. And bankrupted them, because they could not plain could not keep up, and that's stands to reason when you think about their system. In that type of a system, people have virtually no incentive to actually do much of anything. It's equated down in Cuba, where Cuba, I think the joke is they say that the government pretends to pay us and we pretend to work, and that's what happens in that type of a system. You can't be fired. You don't get to choose what you want to do. Your wages are going to be whatever they are. It's never going to be enough. And there's just no incentive. People can't get ahead. So why bother?
And that's why communism doesn't work.
That's why it doesn't work.
And
it goes so against human nature. Yeah. That means because for it to work, everybody has to be so selfless as to say, yes, we're going to work for the system and we are okay with that. And that's just not the way people operate.
No. So lots of good ways to be a good leader on this President's Day. Like I said, there are lots of good qualities out there to look for when it comes to good leaders. If somebody needed help developing some of those qualities or developing their leadership skills, who could they turn to?
Well, they could turn to us.
They could
learn how to do things like improve their communication skills, handle change. Yep. That's another a good quality for a leader. A lot of presidents, have to handle constant change. The ones who are better at handling change, they were more successful. The ones who would resist the change, especially embracing good change, they just wouldn't do it. They'd fight against it. They were poor leaders. So yeah, embracing change, developing your character, making decisions, all kinds of things. Yes. They can contact us.
Yes, they can.
And they can contact us in a multitude of ways.
Yeah.
We have a phone.
We do.
I know, how weird, right? You can call us and we'll talk to you. We like talking to people. So if you want to call us and talk to us, our number is right there, 412-420-7975. You can also send us a text message. You can go to our website, at ateagueofyourown.com. You can send us an email, info at ateagueofyourown.com. Hey, there you go. You can also get in touch with us through our social media. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. We are on Instagram. And we're on YouTube. And please like us here on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll be able to find all of these recordings. And we would be happy to help you, especially if you're having issues with your own leadership abilities, managing your teams. Because a lot of people are. It's one of the things that we see quite often when we're working with companies is trying to get everybody moving in the right direction. And it's because their leaders just don't really know how to do it. Being able to handle change, being able to provide training and what's needed for their employees so that they will stay. Retention is still an issue, has been an issue now for how long? A few years. And it's still an issue. Companies are struggling with that. We can help you. We can help you. We've got the tools, we've got the resources, we've got the capabilities. We can help you overcome those issues and those pain points. So, something to ask yourself. Ask yourself some questions. Is my team going in the direction that I want them to? Am I able to lead them in the direction that I want them to? Am I truly, and you got to be honest with yourself. Are you really the leader that you want to be? Do you have the team around you that can lead and they're leading the way that you want them to? Are they being effective? And, if say you're looking at these on a scale of, 1 to 10, and you find that for most of those questions, the answer's a 4, a 5, a 6, call us. Call us. We can help you with those things.
Yes, we can. So, send us an email. Like you said, you can give us a call or go to our website. We have a complimentary webinar at the end of this week on Friday. It's at 12:15 p.m. Eastern time, which is 9:15 a.m. Pacific time. Go to our website, ateagueofyourown.com. You can click on the event tab and register for it. We are studying the 15 invaluable laws of growth.
And we're on laws 4, 5, and 6.
And that's a great jumping in point. You can take a look and you can use these laws to help develop yourself personally and professionally. Everybody can grow. And
if you're jumping in now, the recording for 1, 2, and 3.
Well, we can send it to you.
Okay, we can send that to you so you can get caught up so you won't miss a darn thing.
So let us know. Go to the website, register for that, and then just send us an email saying, hey, I want the recordings for 1, 2, and 3 also.
And get you up to speed and you'll be ready to roll.
Yes, you will. All right. Great week ahead. We know it's going to be a fun one. Like I said, we got the webinar coming up. Feel free to reach out to us if you need help with anything, and we will see you next week. Bye. Everyone.